This is an analysis of Invention number 2 in C minor by J.S. Bach. I always recommend starting off with a score analysis before even opening ATAVizM and loading a MIDI file. So I've downloaded this PDF from musescore.org, which is where I also got the MIDI data, and I've gone through and I've placed boxes around all the appearances of the main theme, which first appears from the and of 1 in beat 1 in measure 1 to the downbeat of measure 3. Then it appears again in the second voice immediately in the next measure from the and of beat 1 in measure 3 to the downbeat of measure 5. Notice that it's the exact same note names, but it's transposed down an octave. The next appearance is in the second voice in the left hand, and notice that it's a little different. The original had this same shape, but this, the first note ascends to the second note. So I put that in yellow because it has a slight variation. Not only is it transposed, but it's also modified. Now this fourth statement back in voice 1 is a transposition to the dominant. So I've boxed it in blue because it's really the same pattern or shape. Finally, in measure 23, we have the original theme verbatim at the same pitch level, and then last in the bass down 2 octaves, this time without the trill, so I put it in yellow. So to get started with replicating that analysis in ATAVizM, I'm going to select a MIDI file. To get to this file, you can go to the folder you were provided when you downloaded the software. Go to MIDI, go to Bach, and select the Invention in C minor. May take a second to load. Avoid clicking buttons over and over again because it is a software in development. The first thing you want to do when you open a new file in ATAVizM is make sure the meter's correct. This is in quarter notes, so we know it has 4 quarter notes per measure. So we'll correct that, and then let's go to Discovery, and you can go ahead just with the default settings and click Run. So the Discovery just lets loose a pattern finding algorithm without any user input. So it's not always going to give you exactly what you want. In this case, it's the fourth pattern that it finds, which is closest to what we're looking for, but I need to edit it a little bit. So we have voice 1, measure 1 through 3. We only want from the and of beat 1 to the downbeat of measure 3. And so once I've isolated my user input, I'll go to Finding. And once again, I'll just use the default settings. And now it's going to be, the pattern finding algorithm is user directed, so it's specifically going to look for whatever I as the user put in. So it found 4, which correspond exactly to the 4 blue boxes we had in the score. Let's go to Visualization and check it out. So here we have measure 1 to the downbeat of 3 in voice 1. Here's voice 2 from the downbeat of measure 3 to the downbeat of measure 5. Here's the measure 13 through 15 in voice 1, and finally measure 23 through downbeat of 25 in voice 1. But we're missing measure 25 in voice 2 and measure 11 in voice 2. So the easiest way to add those is just to manually input them. So if we type in voice 2, 11 through, I'm going to put 12 because I actually just want the downbeat of 13, so I'll add it. And click replot. I can take off the downbeat of 11, so I'm on the and of 1, and then add the downbeat to 13. Then I can add this selection, and it'll add it to my patterns list. Now we also wanted measure 25 through the end in voice 2, so I'll put in 25 through 27. And I'll replot it. I'm going to take off the downbeat of measure 25, and then I'm going to add the selection. Now I have everything, and I just want to merge them together, and now I'm going to call this theme. then click Rename. Now, when you plot it, we have all 6 statements. Notice that the key estimation is wrong, so we want to correct that. So go back to Analysis, and you have all 6 of your statements here. We'll start with measure 1 through 3. That is in C minor, the tonic key. So I'll type in a small c and update. Then 3 through 5, which is right after it, it estimated as E flat major, which is understandable. It's the relative major, but C minor is the correct key label. Then we'll go 11 through 13. Now this one's a little trickier. We note on the first one, beat 2 is C, and then the downbeat of measure 3 is E flat. So that kind of outlines C minor, Do, and May. So if you look here, the third note, which is on beat 2 of measure 11, is G, and then it rises to a B flat. So if we compare that to C E flat for C minor, the equivalent key would be G minor, G up to B flat. So that is the correct label that the key estimation found. And then right after it, that's also going to be G minor, where we have the G rising to B flat. So I'll correct that from the mislabel of C minor. Now let's go to 23 through 25, which is the opening verbatim. So we know that's C minor. Update it. And then finally, also C minor. Even though it doesn't have all the same notes, it's still very clearly with the C and E flat and G and this kind of diminished chord outline here that on B, that it's in the key area of C minor. And now we can go back to Visualize, and now we have the correct key labels. Once you have a diagram you're happy with, you can go ahead and add a title. And export it. You can also add your name if you'd like. Once that comes up, you can save this, I recommend, as a TIFF. And we need to select the desktop because it can't save directly to Macintosh HD. And then we have Invention C minor analysis. It may take a second to save because it's a pretty large file. And when you have this TIFF, then this is something that you could actually take to a large format printer to make a poster or what have you.